Good evening, good evening. Hopefully everybody is doing well. Now, I actually have some pre-recorded segment. I wanted to cover some things, and I didn't want to mix up anything or confuse anybody. Unlike normal, I've got a ton of links in the description box for everybody. There's links to a ton of different articles, which we're going to talk about in about a 15-minute segment that I already shot earlier today. Some of these stories I have been following for decades. We're going to talk about Wayne Gretzky. I'm not a sports person, but I do remember him from back in the day. I think he was on The Muppet Show and a few other things. He's a card collector. He's dealt with some high dollar items. We're going to talk about PSA, PWCC, which has been just banned on eBay. It's a $50 million a year selling service. PWCC, which eBay banned. That's business coming away from eBay. We're going to get into a lot of stuff here because this all covers a ton of different genres, fields, anything that's graded, this touches on. And I get a lot of pushback when I show graded items. So I want to address this from more of a holistic aspect because there's a lot more going on. And this goes back way farther than most people even think. Some of the people who are discussing this weren't even alive when the first issue of this first came up. Now, this is talking about valuing, basically. If you sell in a category where there's anything that can be graded at all, you need to hear what's going on. Again, this isn't like a threat. I'm not saying the world's ending. There's some things you need to be concerned and worried about. This could crash some of the values on listings on eBay. It could go in the opposite direction depending on which service and things like that you use. Now, I have no affiliation with any grading company whatsoever. I have used them. We do have an account on PSA. We've sent stuff in, the whole works. I've always done well. I don't mess with anything that's illegal or anything else like that. These are valid services that do a service to a lot of people. There's always bad apples with everything that we do in this industry. The title of the video is dealing with investors, crooks, and thieves. A lot of what's going on right now is tied to investors who are pulling out of Wall Street in the last year and a half and years back before this too, because the markets aren't stable and stuff such as retail and things like that. The industries are suffering because of the pandemic. So they're investing into items that we sell. They're affecting our personal markets, good, bad, or indifferent. I've had it both ways. It's helped me and it's hurt me. So, you take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life for those who remember the show. But that's the truth with what we're talking about today. There's a lot of crooks out there. There are a lot of thieves out there. I'm going to point out to two specific videos that I've linked to. They're from other channels. I've watched a couple videos. The videos that I've selected are, I don't know these people at all, but the information they give out is 100% legit in every way that I can tell, and it addresses the cons on gold, silver, and this is from a gentleman who's the leader in the entire industry for coins and stuff, and this is a video taken at a coin show talking about what to look out for, talking about the styles of fakes out there. It's a 15 or 20 minute video. It's not related to me. I've never talked to these people, any of them at all. There's also another video talking about a PSA in general, showing you without a doubt what's going on from some other channel as well. That one's about 5 minutes long. Again, I've tried to title them in there. There's like 8 or 10 links in this video in the top of the description. Before any of my stuff, I actually deleted some of my affiliate links just to make sure everybody gets this information, because in my book, it's key, it's important. This happened yesterday for those who aren't aware. Actually, it probably happened on the day before yesterday, at least the initial information. It's been on the news. This is a huge ordeal with, PWCC. It has ramifications for PSA. It has ramifications for Beckett's and a ton of other different grading services as well as auction sites. Some of this touches on shill bidding, which I'll tell you what it is in the little clip as well. We're going to come back in and address this because this is probably rocking the roots of all of these categories. Again, PSA does other things like comic books, which I deal in, which Dom, Primetime, and many other channels deal in. So Yesterday, the bomb dropped with a lot of this, and I just was inundated with a lot of conversation from folks who deal in these categories, who I've talked to in the past on many different occasions. Some people who are more advanced than me, who pointed out things, or who I've had to ask for help in a odd comic or something like that that I wasn't sure of. I'm not a perfect grader. I never claim to be. I sell them as they are. But anyway, we're going to go into a lot of stuff today, and I just want everybody to understand that this is a way, this could crash values in many categories. People aren't going to trust grading in general, and I've been getting a lot of grief from some of the videos because of that. Just because there's bad apples out there doesn't mean they're all bad or the service is bad in general. If that would be the case, which I'll reiterate later on as well, no one should do business with eBay if that is the case. Bad apples at eBay did some stuff to the Steiners, the e-commerce bites. Again, that was terrible. If we judged them on that, no one would be selling on the site anymore. It's a horrid thing. I in no way would ever side with eBay on anything like that. I know Ina. I've talked to her. You know, we've chatted for quite some time. Again, I understand the difference between, you know, personal attacks versus business versus, you know, just being cons and crooks. And that's what we're going to discuss today. So without further ado, we're going to roll to a 14-minute and 50-second clip, and we're going to go from there. Hang on, let me just make sure it's ready to roll, and off it goes. So
let's start back in the Wayback Machine for just a few minutes here and go into where this has all come from. Now, this is an old article. This is from quite some time ago, I do believe. I don't see a date on here. But quite some time ago, a Honus Wagner card was sold. It was sold to some famous people, including Wayne Gretzky, which is a very famous hockey player, was still around. His rookie card just sold for a record-whopping fee as well. Well, this card here was graded by PSA. This goes back to 1991. This was actually the first card, I think it says, that PSA actually graded. Well, what happened with this card is the person who actually sent it in had actually trimmed the card. His name is Maestro. You can read it, Bill Maestro. Lots of articles about this because this was long touted as being, you know, the best card, you know, high grade at 8 for this type of card. It's a very rare baseball card. There's a lot of history with the card itself. You can look into it if you want. Now, we're showing you baseball cards, but this goes across the gambit with what's going on in all of the conversation as of today. So, point being, this turns out that it was trimmed. It was falsely trimmed, which is a no-no. PSA says they won't actually grade any cards that look like they were altered, but they did grade this one, and it sold for a phenomenal price. Now, there's also talk of shill bidding with this card as well as several other companies, and we'll look at that in just a second here. Now, shill bidding is where someone you know or a different user is helping you to inflate the price of the item, where they'll bid on it against real bidders to get the price up high as they can get it. So that's what shill bidding is. eBay is, again, shutting down another platform or limiting their use of the platform because of shill bidding. So now let's move on here just to give you a little more here. This is the gentleman who trimmed the card. He's admitted it. We're talking millions of dollars were made off of that card. I don't remember the exact, 2.8 million in 2007. And that was sold to, again, Wayne Gretzky. So that's where Wayne Gretzky comes in. So this, all of this aspect of grading and investment, again, this is all tied to investment, started back in these days. It started in the 80s, actually, with some of the coin graders, but in the coin grader world, it's pretty solid stuff from what I've seen. Now, just because this scam was going on and there's some wrongly graded cards out there doesn't mean the whole process is bad. Now, this all started, all of the grading and all of these companies, for investment's sake, basically, as well as to standardize the conditions. I sell records. If you don't sell records, a small little difference in a record to one person could say that that record shouldn't be listed as, say, a certain grade. It should be lower than that. Another person may say, no, that's right where it's at. So there's a lot of discrepancies or opinions on grading. So having a service that would tell you, hey, this is the standard for everything, allows investors to come in here because they've got solid information. Not only that, when it is actually graded like that, insurance companies will take it. So this all ties to insurance as well. Now let's pop forward a little farther here and get into this a little bit here. Now this is Blowout Cards. The actual forum's name is blowoutforums.com. Now these folks here have done a phenomenal job. There's a group in here that just investigates this. There's articles on this same thing in here if you'd like to click and get some more information. There's a rough breakdown on all of what's happened over this case. Now, I also have links to every single one of these I'm showing you right now, so you can go and look at them in the description box if you want to watch these videos. This relates to the entire industry of grading and collectibles in general. Again, don't assume that just because there's some foul play going around that the entire whole structure of this is doomed and that it's all scam, because that's not the case. I've worked with some of these companies. It's improved the value of my items. I've never seen a shill bid. I've never used a shill bid. I don't work that way. I don't alter things or anything else like that. So if you're an up-and-up person, you're selling normal items, you don't really have anything to worry about, in my opinion. I would not, though, at this point, trust any of the PWCC graded cards at all. Again, eBay stepping into this field, so there's a lot of play in here. Now, this is from 2015 was when this started out with, again, finding out that some of the cards were altered. They were sent in. A lot of these were sent into PSA, or they were bought in a lesser grade from PSA, altered, repaired, bleached, or anything else like that, and then sent back in, and they got a higher grade from PSA. Again, PSA is supposed to be able to catch these sorts of things, so it leaves a lot of options, a lot of things into question about this. Again, PSA is mentioned in here. Lots of other companies do grading. Lots of other companies could be at risk for some of these same types of things. Beckett Grades, there's quite a few grading companies out there. For you name it, they can grade it these days. Now, overall, my opinion is the grading structure, grading in general, is not a scam in itself at all. I've sent in for like autographs. To know that it's an autograph, you've got to have an expert look at something. Every major auction house does it, or they have their own. And I trust an expert over my naive eyes, I guess you would say, and you would hope that a company that makes millions and millions of dollars has hired good people. This puts it all into question. Now, again, it breaks down the whole thing. There's a video down at the bottom, which I'll show you in just a second here as well. Now, this is going into PSA specifically. There's folks out there who have tracked specific cards. So this card here is in a poor one. Now the card has been cleaned up, and this is the exact same card here, but now all of a sudden, going back to PSA again, it's now graded a 4. If you don't know cards, a Joe DiMaggio, a rare card like that, you're talking thousands, tens, $20,000, $30,000 for some cards, like the Wayne Gretzky purchased Honus Wagner. That one sold for $2.8 million. So a grade is a huge difference in value going up. Now, if there's such a good grading company, the whole thing comes into play, is how are they missing that this is the same card? There's noted factors. Now, if you're not into cards and things like that, every card out there is slightly different. It's almost like a fingerprint with everything that was printed back in these days, because the printing technology of the time frame. Some will have a little wear spot here or anything else, any little tiny imperfections in the printing. It doesn't affect the condition necessarily, but the printing. And you can see the same things in other cards, like the Joe DiMaggio. You can see where they cleaned it up. There's little imperfections, and it'll show you that it's the same card. The red's a little brighter in this one spot, or there's a speck of white from the printing in this spot. All of those are like a fingerprint. So people have been tracking these sorts of things down. The FBI obviously has stepped in because of this. Again, this is old. This is from 2019 now. We've bumped up from 2015. Again, this goes way back. This has been going on for decades. Decades, this type of thing has been going on. Again, just because someone from this company has done it doesn't mean that the whole company is bad. If that was the case, eBay would be totally bad in every way, shape, or form after they attacked the Steiners from E-Commerce Bytes. Those were head people at eBay that were involved in this, head of global security and stuff. I don't hold everybody at eBay responsible for that. If you get a bad response from a customer service rep, it's not all of eBay's fault. It's one person's fault. So I don't always rush to the conclusion that all of the grading companies, all those things are fake. Obviously, there is something going on. All of this, again, ties back to investors for the most part on things like that. with the stock market tumbling, with the pandemic, it's gotten to be over pushed on investment so they can have a tangible good that isn't going to crash if no one's buying merchandise. You can't invest in a retail establishment right now. So their money is going into things like this, killing the market in some aspects, raising the price in some other where you can get some more money out of it. And there's companies out there that are, again, I can't say PSA has done anything wrong or not. They may just not know. It may be an unconscious thing. They didn't do it intentionally. But there's hundreds of cards at this point that they can prove, apparently, some of these sites, like I've showed you, that these cards are been repaired, they've been trimmed, they've been bleached, they've been soaked, they've been touched up in a way that's apparently not noticeable. Or, again, maybe they know. If you watch this video again, this link is down in there. You judge it for yourself. It's hard to believe that they couldn't catch some of these things going on. Like, just in this thumbnail here, you can see the streaks in some of these as well. They're still there. Maybe a little different in looks, but they are still there. There's a blotch right here. This is the most noticeable one. The blotch right there is right there. Now, I've looked at this close. It's definitely the same card. So, again, there's enough proof to say that there's something going on with a lot of these types of things. Again, it might be tied to one or two people, and that's it. It does not mean that the whole industry is bad. Now, here's one from Washington Post, and this is from 2019 as well, when some of this was just starting to go on. This is the initial FBI investigation into grading in the whole works. The FBI was looking into this. There's a lot of sleuths out there that have dug into card issues. Again, there's links. Look at the links, please, if you're interested in this. This affects anybody that you could think of in this area here. This is the company, the PWCC is the company that eBay has temporarily or permanently, I'm not sure, stopped their use. And we're going to pop over to there now. Again, these are all articles that I would honestly recommend if you sell in the collectibles field and you don't know what's been going on for a few decades with some of these issues with the trimming and things like that. I do sell some more valuable cards, so again, I do actually deal in some of these materials also. Now, here is a recent one from yesterday. Oregon Sports Card Powerhouse PWCC kicked off of eBay, accused of shill bidding. Again, shill bidding is when someone has some other entity bid for them to raise the price against the true and actual people who want to bid and buy the item. That's what eBay is accusing folks of doing. If for some reason the shill bidder actually wins it, mysteriously the auction apparently gets redone, it's canceled, and they just resell it again, and hopefully the next time the actual true buyer will just be pushed up in price, and then they'll buy it. That's what the allegations are here. I'm not going to say yes or no they're doing this. I can't prove it. I don't know. I don't post comments when it says they're doing something or any slanderous things on any of my platforms here. Unless there's proof, I don't like to state anything as fact. I can't say this is happening, but from the evidence that I personally seen, my judgment would say, in my opinion, that yes, there is some issues going on where people aren't being honest with how this is being handled. You can see an explanation here. Again, this one's well worth reading if you don't read any other ones as well. The aspect of this is that there could be 150,000 high-valued cards that were repaired, trimmed, or something else like that. That's 1% of the entire market from just last year. So it could be a huge amount that could be scrupulously improved when they shouldn't be and that weren't identified as being improved. Some of these are tied to a very specific individual. I'm not going to call that out. Read it if you're interested. Again, as I said, this company sold $50 million worth of cards. They grade and they auction off. They were the biggest auctioneer, I think, on eBay for sports cards, if I'm not mistaken. There's a bunch going on. I'm not going to spend the 10 or 20 minutes extra to explain the whole thing. I would recommend reading this article. If you sell in any of these categories, you should be aware of that. Again, just because these sites, these companies are doing stuff like this doesn't mean any of the other graders are doing it as well. Take it on a case-by-case benefit. I am to the person that would say they're innocent until proven guilty. At this point, the only ones that apparently, there's enough push for, in my opinion, is PWCC. Again, I can't say, either way without seeing any more evidence, but in my opinion, yes, that would be the one. Here's another one here. Again, there's links to these. eBay restricts trading card giant, goes into some financials, some more information on it. There's a letter from eBay shown in here. Some of these you can see as well. The response from PWCC, they claim they haven't done anything wrong. Who knows? There could be some just hateful person on eBay that's bidding them up just to tick other people off. Who knows? It doesn't necessarily mean it until it's proven. Again, eBay has taken the action here. Again, we're talking about a business that sold $50 million of cards in 1 year. So this is a lot of money we're talking about. Potential big fraud. Now, again, I wouldn't personally trust the PWCC card at this point, in my opinion. I wouldn't trust the pricing structure on theirs as of right now. Doesn't mean, again, that all of the cards, everything they've done is junk. A lot of these companies, too, were started from other companies, just like PSA and such forth. They're all tied in. This kind of business has been going on for a very long time, 20, 30 years in general. So, again, let's just look at one more here. This is a new scam they're talking about right now. This is from cardlines.com. Obviously, they talk about cards. And it goes into details on some of those very same cards and issues that happened in 2019. So this is the current one. And again, this states it goes back to the 90s over sports memorabilia. Sports memorabilia is a huge area where there's a ton of fraud. Now, I've heard said that 75 or greater % of autographs that are up for sale on things could be fake in this industry in general. Again, it goes into a lot of detail across the board on these.
Sorry about that. I think we are back. I know it went black for just a second there. My timing was just a hair off. So, underbelly to the grading market. Yeah, we'll get to some comments and some questions and stuff in just a few minutes here. Why is this important? A lot of the pricing, whether it's stuff that isn't slabbed, isn't graded, is based on like slab prices to some extent. So when that market goes up, the non-graded ones go up as well, because people will assume they can buy non-graded ones, send them in, and get these higher prices. So when you, I, or whoever else is out there sells some items to a person that's going to grade them, they're going to send them into these services, and chances are that item will be back on eBay, but in a graded point. Again, that's part of the reason why I personally would recommend sending some in the past, because you're going to get that boost. If you sell things that are gradable in a good enough grade where they would be worth it, and you're not grading them yourself, you're just giving money away, basically, at some point. I learned the hard way with autographs that you need to do a grading on it, because they will surely sell for more. Not grading, I should say, but authentication. You don't have to have something graded to have it authenticated. Those are two different acts. There's an option with PSA where you can have them both done at once, and the whole works. You don't have to have them slabbed. You can have them loose. You can have a paper, just a sticker, whatever you want. They'll do whatever you want with stuff like that, and most of the companies will. This is potentially, though, a major crash potential for trading cards, for items that are graded in general. If this creates a sense that most of the companies are shill bidding just because one company may be involved, or even two, that could tumble other categories across the board. eBay taking this action, let's start back to yesterday with the first conversation I had with somebody over this. It was early. Their take was, and probably somebody out there's thinking, who's watching this right now, is thinking that eBay is pushing to do cards. They've added the feature so you can keep track of what you have for inventory. Those inventory features on a website like that are for insurance purposes, if you didn't know that. Discogs, you can put your whole entire discography in there, everything you own in there, and use that to judge pricing and turn that over to the insurance company. That's, again, how investors come play in here at all. There's nothing wrong with people investing in something like this. I think we all do it to some extent. I invest in some certain things that I know, hope, pray that they will be worth more money at the end of the day. But when they come in and people take over a market that's been ours, not mine, but everybody out there, not just me. When I say ours, I don't mean me, I mean everybody. It's all of ours. These markets are out here. They're not tied to one person. Money, big money came into this. And I've been saying this for a year and a half, almost 2 years, the exact same thing. Big money is getting their hands on what's going on. Corporate America, folks who would invest in normal stock markets, aren't exactly sure on where this is going with the pandemic. The stock market, in the past has swung so drastically that more and more people have invested into things like tangible goods instead of just having on paper. Now, again, a lot of people who are investing in these are novice. They have no idea on collectibles at all. They're not people that are into it. Same with coin buyers. Why you should watch that video down there. Again, it's not my video. I don't get anything out of the video down there, but there's a video out there down in my links in the description box on a guy who is in charge for a major company, major thing, on looking at and investigating scam coins. You're going to see some really interesting examples that this gentleman in that video has to show you what great lengths a lot of this stuff is going on. And again, it's because big investors are coming in. There's more opportunities to rip off more people, so it's affecting the rest of us. Because if you're in a category that's going to be hammered by a lot of fakes, that's going to hurt the category. Good example, my wife collected Sharon Cabbage Rose, Pink Depression Glass, and several other patterns as well. Turned out a lot of it was fake, and it was conned to us by one of the leading, somebody who actually wrote for some of the books for Depression Glass. Turns out he knew it. He had to have. So anyway, we don't collect those. The market died at one point. It's been up and down, and that's how markets crash. Stability or lack of faith and trust. Just like markets and currency can crash and things like that. If there's a lack of faith because shill bidding is the concern with eBay, I think eBay did exactly the right thing. Even though it could potentially pull millions of dollars from their revenue, they did the right thing if that's the case. The conversation yesterday, the person told me that they felt that eBay was doing that because they didn't want a challenger on the platform. That's why eBay is adding all these other things in, and you've got the lower shipping rate for trade cards. They want to be a dominant factor in trade cards. Fine, so be it. Nothing wrong with that at all. I don't have any opinions that's negative on something like that. Hopefully it'll help the rest of us. But, you've got these other aspects in there that could crush stuff like that. PWCC was going to go and do their own site anyway. They were already working on it. So, for eBay to just cut them off like that, I have to feel they have to have enough in there. I know everybody can say eBay shuts people down all the time for no apparent reason, but this is major news. This is lawsuit material. eBay, at this point, they were doing okay. Could possibly trend in the other direction. They don't want a lawsuit that they could lose a max amount of money. PWCC has $50 million in sales in just 1 year, so they can afford to hire good lawyers. So, there's got to be something there, in my personal opinion. I can't think that eBay would want to crush their reputation or anything else like that. I don't feel it's them just trying to kick off the site so they can have dominant factor on their own platform. Again, eBay has to have known, unless they're just that dense that they didn't know that PWCC was working on their own site. Again, you don't even have to know who PWCC is. All you got to know is it's a $50 million a year company that sells and was the largest, I do believe, I could be wrong whether it's the largest, but it's in the top one or two sellers on eBay of sports cards in general. People would grade. They had a connection with PSA. People would grade them. PWCC would hold on to those cards for sellers like me. I never did it because I never do sports cards, and they would auction them off when the seller wanted them to. So you won't even know who the card is coming from when it comes there. So there's some hidden aspect to this. And eBay, obviously, you can't tell who's bidding on your items directly and things like that. You can't go in and look at certain, well, not your items, but other people's to see if there are shill biddings and things like that. So a lot of this is blind to us. And this covers any category that they grade in. Any gradable category. And it's going to hit or could hit items that aren't graded. Again, once the grading ones go down, the interest in non-graded cards aren't going to be as high. It's just a fact. You'll play it out. You'll see yourself. And you'll see why. Because once the faith is lost in the grading companies, people aren't going to buy the cards that we're selling at a little higher rate trying to get them graded. If the biggest grader on there, PWCC, well, not grader, well, yeah, it would be grader, PWCC and PSA, which is the biggest one, I think, out there for this stuff, are both wrapped up into something like this, faith in the industry is going to fall. That's just the facts of life. That's like when the run on a bank happens. When you lose faith in the bank or the system, stuff like that happens. And with a lot of the comments I've been receiving and texts I've been receiving and just all-out emails and stuff, a lot of people are saying all of the graders are shilling and You know, I have tons of people posting all kinds of comments like that, which I'm not going to post because those are slanderous. If I allow them, I'm promoting slanderous remarks. So again, don't post anything that's slanderous. Unless you got proof, bring the proof. I'll be happy to show full-fledged proof in a video, but I'm not going to post stuff that's just hearsay until I know for fact. So again, there's many reasons why you should pay attention to this. I've followed the Wayne Gretzky thing for quite some time because I was shocked when I first heard the story years back, decades ago, about that. Wayne Gretzky was somebody who seemed like a decent person. He was conned on a card for $2.8 million, you know, by someone trimming it. Now, certain cards in certain conditions can't be graded. They won't get a technical grade. They might say altered or something like that. On top of some of what all this was going on, PWCC was, again, you'll have to follow some of those videos if you really want to dig into this, because again, this is something that any of these businesses could do. We're not saying they're all doing them. I personally think it's the other way. They're not all doing them. I think there's some bad apples in here. A lot of greed is involved. Going back, the crooks and thieves are involved in this. They figured out a way, and these are people who already had a lot of money. These are people who are already big time and investors and things like that. Again, that's why this is an investor issue also. Back in the day, 20 years ago, when the investors didn't have their mitts in here, people like me were made fun of. How are you going to make a living? We were just flea market guys, you know, some dirty flea market guys. I've heard people criticize us. I've seen all that stuff 20 plus years ago. It's totally different these days. But corporate America, you know, investors would have never sunk big money into it because they always considered it low-end, shady, and all this kind of stuff. Now that the tables have turned and now they're in here in our areas. Again, there's nothing we can do about it. It's just competition for us. And that's the way, you know, capitalism works. Fine. But, you know, they're playing above. Some people are playing above and beyond legality and a level playing field. They've got the fields shifted in their side. So again, eBay did the right thing. As long as it's valid and it stands up and eBay's safe from anything else, they did the right thing. Now, if they didn't do the right thing, this could tumble the markets on their own platform. Again, eBay kicking them off could hurt them in many ways. They'll lose that revenue, and it could tumble markets. Just like the people who rip off your images and produce cheap copies of postcards or images and photos and things like that. eBay knows it's going on. Again, that could tumble markets. Market tumbles are a huge factor in the valuing of your items. So again, this isn't some take it lightly, I don't sell in this area or that area. If, let's say, gradings in games, videos, coins, stamps, you can even send postcards in, autographs, 8x10s. There's probably 100 different categories you can send items in. If all of those categories eventually have some questionable grading service and stuff, it's going to lower a lot of categories. Once a whole bunch of categories get lowered, again, these are ifs. We don't know, you know, we know it's going to hurt something because there's no way that people are going to keep buying stuff to turn in and get upgraded when the grading companies are being investigated by the FBI and things. Again, it's a broad way where it could tumble various different things. Ungraded items in categories that aren't even graded, this could affect if an overall lack of trust in the whole platform structure itself. There's a lot more to this. You know, it's not just some simple, hey, somebody's trying to make a few bucks. This was methodically planned out, thought out. It could tie up. Again, my opinion is PSA was probably somewhat involved, or at least certain people at PSA were somewhat involved. There's even some of this translates into, it looks like there was some almost pay per play and stuff like that going on, and some too close conflict of interest connections between some of this as well, too. The company states they don't grade cards that have issues with them or were altered, but from some of the reports from some of the sites I showed you in that video, it's very clear that they found 130 some odd cards that went for millions of dollars that were obviously altered from what I personally saw on some of the feeds on that blog post. So again, I look into stuff that affects my personal business and businesses of those who follow or support me, because that affects my business. Again, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to crush it forever, but it's not the best time to take a hit like this. Somebody was shouting out about Topps as well. You know, I have to wonder as well. I did hear that also. Topps has lost part of their license. Topps is involved with. I'm not saying is doing anything wrong, but Topps interacts with these companies because their cards are graded all the time. So it's a tight-knit community of card producers and graders and all this stuff. So if it affects the biggest one, the second biggest one, what's going to happen to the rest of them in all the other categories? You know, you can send in records. You can send in all sorts of things to have graded. And I fully do like the aspect of grading. I think the prices are too high, the service takes too long, and things like that. And the fact that you got to pay just to have a membership. PSA is on hold for accepting new things, supposedly, and things like that. There's drawbacks to all of it, but overall, it does help get more money. It does increase your profits for many items out there. A graded anything usually sells for more, and not necessarily shill bidding or anything else like that. Companies that are doing the shill bidding like that aren't taking a loss if it sells. That's the drawback for it. And if you can't see it, you don't know it's even happening. So we have to trust that eBay is catching them. Again, this is why I feel that eBay in this case is probably doing their best judgment. They're the ones who will be able to see these accounts. What ends, what doesn't end. And again, if the FBI, which we know they are involved and have addressed this years ago and have continually addressed these issues, are involved, FBI has already been talking to eBay over these harassment issues with the Steiners, a very lovely couple, never deserved a single thing like that. So, you know, they're already in contact with the FBI. I can't imagine eBay wanting to get tied up into anything else at this point. You know, we're back to, you know, the stuff is back in the back page of the newspaper even at this point. You know, eBay's able to push a lot of that stuff out, PR, the whole work. So this has a big possibility to hurt a lot of people out there money-wise. So look into it if you sell any of these categories. Anything that's graded at all would be a potential hit. And it's still making its way across the news. Usually we see the stuff on smaller news sites before it ever hits mainstream news. You know, sometimes it's a week afterwards. But I keep track on the little guy news, and I check with Wall Street Journal and things like that. Good sources to know what's going on in the investor industry and world and stuff like this. It's crooks, it's thieves, it's greed. Everything usually comes down to greed. I am not a greedy person, so to me it's very bothersome that someone who's already rich wanted to make a couple more $1 million to add to the bank that they can't spend in the first place. I'm not that way. I don't care. I don't promote. I don't advertise. I don't even put my own darn store in my video descriptions down there. I get asked that all the time. I'm not trying to offer people. I'm not into that. So it's bothersome that people are doing things in greed that could affect the rest of us, the small guys, us out here right now who sell in these categories. I've got graded items right here now that could be affected by some of this. Again, PSA is a top grader for comic books. So, you know, I have some graded ones in here I invested in not too long ago. You know, I know the news. I was hoping, you know, nothing further would come, but at this point it's iffy on where this will go. It takes years for some of these cases too, but that's the gist on what's going on. It is something that is top-end major news in my book as a reseller who sells stuff in categories that are graded. And anybody else, as I said, should feel the same way. Again, this is nothing but greed from crooks and thieves and investors in general. I'm not saying the investors are all out there to con us, but had the investors not put such high dollars on items that in the past only sold for a few hundred, this wouldn't be happening as much. There wouldn't be the opportunity out there to crush and potentially rip people off for thousands of dollars. You know, we just have to worry about the regular crooks instead of big corporate investment banking systems coming in and offering collectibles and portfolios. Portfolios, you can get collectibles in now these days. Graded high-end 9.6, 9.8 comic books. High-grade points, 65 or something in coins or higher. And whatever category you're thinking about, that's the case. That's why I do use some other sites like, say, Heritage or something, because graded things sell for more there, even above and beyond on eBay. So, you know, if you're not heavy into certain areas, this may not mean anything to you. You may not think much about it. But if you ever want to sell more higher-end stuff, or you ever want to sell stuff in some of these categories, it's going to affect you. could affect people for a very long time going forward as well. It's going to take a while to recover if PSA or something comes tumbling down, tied up with PWCC or something like that. You know, who knows? Who knows? We don't know. Again, this is my opinion on what I've seen, what I've read. I'm not making the opinions lightly. I've read all of those articles. I've read a ton more than just that because, again, you investigate issues that will affect your business. If I do business with somebody, I usually check them out ahead of time. It's just what I do. I check with the Better Business Bureau. I may check with the police department if I'm going to sign a contract with somebody. I want to know who I'm dealing with. In the industry that we, all of us here, hopefully most people watching this are resellers too, there is a lot of theft. Locally speaking here, if I've done this, I've looked up some of the estate sale companies, I've looked up some of the auctioneers, many of them, and I'm not going to mention any names, but many of them across in a huge region around here have criminal records for doing not so great things in this line of business. Everybody wants to make the dollar. This shouldn't just be about the dollar. I am a collector too, and those who aren't collectors may not get it as much as I do. I know I see a few collectors in house now. As a collector, it bothers me. As a person who collects, say, buttons or something, whenever I see one misrepresented, I wished I had more time to say, hey, you've identified this wrong. You're trying to quote it as something it's not. When you quote something saying it's older than it is, it's usually worth more money. So whether it's a conscious effort or they don't know, it muddies the waters for people who sell legitimate items. You know, there's questions on what's real, what's not. If somebody buys a bunch of fake items from people, or they were misgraded or they were altered, you're going to be questionable when you go to buy some from other folks. Well, are you going to do what this guy did? This guy ripped me off. This guy said it was this and it wasn't that old. I took it to a show and somebody said, oh, that's new. You just got ripped off. I hear that all the time. So again, your reputation is key, and this is all coming back to play in here. PWCC's reputation could be at stake as well as PSA's. I wouldn't wish that on them, but you know, if they're doing something wrong, they deserve what they get. So anyway, let's pop up to some questions here. I did see something I wanted to color out to. Again, I was respite a few minutes. I've actually had some time, a few extra minutes today and yesterday. I was really surprised, but I was actually responding, and I had to stop at Jeff Loftus. Good evening. I got Charles Lowe in house. Hey, Charles. Hope you are doing well. Warren and Bit. Welcome, welcome. Sandra L. Crystal L. Walters. Waltzing with Crystal. How you doing, Crystal? Winner of one of the prizes on the show. I'm going to be giving something away here on, I think it's next week's show on Thursday. I got Dom on Primetime Treasure Hunter on next Thursday. I think it's at 8. I think I got written down. And I've got a giveaway. I've got something that somebody gave me. I'm not going to sell it. I'm not worried about money out of it. So I'm going to give away a few things on there. I know there's at least one. I think there's 2 winners in the show right now. As soon as things settle down too, I've got some records on a contest for Patreons just sitting here. Wife wants me to get them out of the way, so I need to put the contest up shortly. Hey, Mr. Hale. Hey, Bob. How you doing, Bob? And no sound on my end. I think we do have sound, I think. That would have been a long time ago, too, so hopefully I did have sound all this time. Hopefully you're doing okay, though, Daryl. Duncan, how you doing? Sold a St. Louis, Missouri transatlantic 1850s letter for some good money. Also sold encyclopedia listed Maltese cross covers for good money, too. Duncan's a stamp guy. I'm a stamp guy too. I do love stamps. I've got hundreds of thousands of stamps. Now that may sound like a lot, but it doesn't take up a massive amount of space. I've got 2 shelves that are, what are they? I don't know, maybe 6 feet long by 4 feet deep that are full. 2 big shelves, and that's all of my stamps. And I got some in the bank, but that's the different story. I do have a bank deposit box. Yeah, stamps do very well. Stamps don't die off in slow season, in all honesty. If you got good stuff, they always sell. Stamp collectors are gung-ho. Again, that's another area that people do grade things occasionally, too. Beat of his sound, how are you doing? Good evening. Black Crystal Dice, welcome as well. Working now. Yeah, I could have been me. Sometimes I'm last minute running in here. I was doing a few things today. Parlay Broker, good evening. Welcome in as well. Laura Ashby, could you cover scanning and why you scan paper? I scan paper because it's like 10 times quicker than photoing anything. I can scan both sides in a minute. Now, I'm not going to, this is not an exaggeration. In a minute, I can probably scan 40 items, both sides. So that's 80 photos in about a minute, depending on the DPI that I set. If you're doing 75 DPI, it is going through there about a card a second almost. And it's a it's a DS510 Epson is what I use. I don't know about any other brands but Epson. So I have people criticize me for hollering out Epson, but that's what I use. I don't recommend anything I haven't used. I can't tell you how it works if I've never used it. But I do use Epson. Again, I bought a used one. I think a new one of those is like $6. I bought a used one for like 100 with the cords on eBay. I liked it so much I bought a second one. And I've used a few other Epsons. They're all newer than the one that I have, and they all work just as well. I say Epson DS510 because that is the first one that I personally know that I've used that has a thickness adjuster for those scanners. With the thickness adjuster, if you're trying to scan like, say, a magazine, a print ad or something, you can do it if you're careful. That one will also, you can adjust the thickness to a thicker one, and you can use, what are they called? It's basically a scan sleeve. You'd put the item in there, and that sleeve, it's like a clear Mylar, will slide through the machine, and it doesn't glare. I've got hair from my dog, I'm sorry. So anyway, there's many options, but it's speed of use. I've got one plugged in 24/7. So if I get home, I click a button on the scanner, I click a button on my thing, and I just drop it in. I can have it listed with no lights, no setup, no stand, no cameras, no SD cards. It can go straight to a specific laptop and have something listed in a matter of moments when I list it there. A scanner, a duplex scanner, is a no-brainer if you're listing a lot of paper. With postcards, man, I can, as fast as I can fit a postcard in there, I can get them scanned at 600 DPI, which is what I use for most of my items. I'm doing other things with them besides what most normal people do. I do books. I've got some in the works. I've been trying to get a 78 guide. I've got a button thing I've been working on. Everything takes more time than I ever anticipated. I've never done books. I've never done guides. So for me, it's a totally different. And this isn't going to be like some, hey, pay for my service. These are going to be full-fledged books to help identify as what they're going to be, and nothing more than that. They're not going to be something like that. It'll be something you can get off Amazon or something. I do got a book deal with somebody now on something else, but anyway, let's pop on. Hopefully that answers your question on scanners. Scanners cut my photo time. I cut it down down to a third of what I used to do. At least, maybe it's down to like 20%. I'm saving 80% of the time possibly. That's probably right on postcards and stuff. Plus, with the scanner, it looks so much better than a photo, no matter what, every time. No glare. It covers every single speck of the card. It takes a little getting used to. You got to be careful the first few times you're using it. If it's old vintage items, there's a key, there's a knack to it. You've got to realize which way to put it in, which way is safer, things along that line too. But a scanner across the board, 100% will save you so much time. You won't even, you'll be shocked how much time you can save for paper items. 8x10s. If you've ever taken photos of, say, a stack of 100 8x10s at one time, the glare aspect can be a problem. Obviously, if you've got two lights, a light on either side, and they're decent lights, I've got LED light panels we use these days. They're more expensive. They're full spectrum, the whole works, but I can point them on an angle. I can adjust the type of light, the looms, I can adjust any aspect of that light, so I can counter the glare with certain items. But even doing that, the scanner is just so much easier, quicker, better. There's no lights to set up. I don't have to worry about a camera. The scanner is small. It's literally sitting next to a laptop right this very second, 24/7, I promise you. And I've always got my camera set up too, but you know, the scanners are great. Again, I've got a backup because I like it so much and I use it so efficiently, effectively, and constantly. Again, DS510 or higher series. It's the only ones I personally recommend because it's the only ones I've used. Again, I don't recommend things I don't use. I would hate for you to get something and think that, hey, I said it was good, and it turns out it's just a piece of junk. The other scanner that I use is a flatbed scanner. It's a V600. It's also by Epson. I think it's a Visioneer 600. It's a negative film strip scanner as well as a flatbed scanner. I've got a video just on that in my Patreon group. I go into a lot of detail, including in the Patreon group. I also show you every setting that I personally use, start to finish, the whole works. You get to see the carriage placements for the flatbed. That flatbed, the V600 flatbed scanner, will scan 35 millimeter slides, glass plates, 4x6s, 3x5s, transparencies, even transparencies, which is basically a slide. A slide's a transparency. A slide is a positive. A negative is literally a negative, a reverse image. A slide is basically like a photograph, but it's on transparent cell base, basically. It does everything. And the program that comes with the V600 flatbed scanner for negatives, it's got light on the top and on the bottom. Now, the light for scanning glass plates, if you mess with big ones like I do, I've got like 8x10 glass plates. To do larger ones, you have to scan it 2 or 3 times and use the program itself from Visionaire, from Epson, that'll just stitch it together. As long as you've got a decent graphics card, and I've got 8 core processor in ours with 6 gig plus of a specific graphics card. It's real quick. It's real easy. Everything flies through when you're stitching them. That is how you see the higher end folks putting up glass plates, negatives, and all that. They're using a nice flatbed scanner. They're stitching it together, or they have a large format, which I do have a large format scanner, but it doesn't do negatives. There's 11x17 beds on scanners, if you didn't know that. For artists like me, it's something that some of us do buy, because whether it costs $600 or $700, it's still worth it. It saves you some time, but negative wise, you have to stitch. So again, I've tried to cover all bases on that, Laura, there. Hopefully that does answer that. Barlight Broker, he's the best hockey player ever. I don't know his hockey career, but I always thought he was funny. I think he was on Saturday Night Live once. And again, Muppets, I remember him on a Muppets episode, The Muppet Show. My parents used to watch it. I was a young kid back then, and he seemed like a really nice guy. So, I probably have a Wayne Gretzky card around here, honestly, somewhere. I just saved it because of that, honestly. I do run into big lots and end up with sports cards quite often. I don't go out and buy them ever. I do have quite a few here. I've got some graded ones by PWCC, actually, right in the box right now. But anyway, not going to sell them anymore. But let me pop on down here. Catherine Mathis, how are you doing? Good evening. Duncan, eBay gives me the freedom to do what I want. I do have to work hard and list good items. Sometimes spend hours shipping, but sure beats a paid job where your time is locked in for your boss. I would 100% agree with that. Again, I worked as a regional manager. I was just literally talking. I won't get into who I was talking to because somebody might know it, but I was just talking to somebody about that whole aspect of it. I worked in restaurants and in big box retail as well. I worked for Disney. Let's just run down a few incidences that you see in the life that I've led, and most managers in restaurants that serve alcohol. I've had stabbings in restaurants, more than 2, 3 different stabbings in restaurants. One was at Disney. People have been shot in a restaurant I worked at. When I worked at Eckerd's, I've had a girl cashier standing next to me pistol whipped. We've been robbed 7 times at just the one Eckerd's. This was the one. Most of those robberies were at the Eckerd's in Orlando, Florida, on Lee Road, 24 hour, the only one in the city at that time. I used to work there at one point as the night manager. People would rob us for drugs. I've had bottles thrown at me. I've had windows bashed. Every window in my car bashed out from somebody I fired. I've had my car tires slashed. I've had somebody dent the hell out of my car, pardon my language. I've been threatened with my life numerous times. I've had a knife pulled on me personally. I've seen a gun pulled in my presence from a robber. I've seen a prostitute dumped off in our parking lot when I worked for Pilot. She was beaten almost to death. I've had a body dumped off in a parking lot when I worked somewhere. When I worked at Disney, I saw somebody die who fell, a construction worker. I've also seen employees get hurt and maimed. I've seen a finger get chopped off at Disney. I've seen a girl's scalp get ripped off at Disney. When I worked at the resort, Secret Lake Resort in Orlando on West 192, 3 people died while I worked there that I had to tell the spouse what happened. That's just a few. I've just run down a few of what real brick and mortar in life is. Those are all true, honest. I swear to those in a court of law. Those all happened, every one of those. I've got video from surveillance cameras from several robberies that I've chased people down into the parking lot. One of them, I ended up grabbing the guy's ID that he was stupidly hanging from the mirror in his car. This happened at the Pilot store in Jackson, Florida, or Jackson, Mississippi. It was at around 12:40 in the evening. We had armed security there at that time. I had to have armed guards, armed off-duty police officers in Applebee's in Meridian when I worked there. So that's just the basics. I could spend hours telling you about awful stories. For me, this is night and day. There is no comparison whatsoever to what I did before to how easy this is now. I don't mind putting in 12 or 14 hours doing this. It is not work. That was work. All those things I just described and me doing hours after hours. I worked at Pilot in the evening, 12-hour shifts. You go in at 10 and you'd be there till 10 the next day. And you did that 4 days in a row. You got 1 day off and you did it again. And if the person didn't show up, or it was your high-ranking boss was in there and wanted to talk to you, you could be there another hour. Plus, then it was an hour drive home. That's a typical day in some industries off of this. To me, that's murder. That's horrid. That's awful. You have no family life. It's night and day. I love doing this. Every day, it's a new, interesting experience. I feel like Indiana Jones, probably most of the time, even if I'm sourcing different than everybody else. Indiana Jones, a lot of the experience and a lot of the aspect was the research. Getting the item was the small part of it. That's the tiny aspect. That's the small amount of time you put in actually getting it usually. It's all the research to get you there. And I love all that. To me, things that I put together are a treasure map to get me something. You know, I think of it differently than other people, but I love the collectibles. So if you're not into it, you may not get it. But that's my take on it. I know I'm terrible even on calling this out, but if you're enjoying the conversation, please hit that thumbs up. We're 223 people in house. I got 84 likes, thumbs up at this moment here. Let's pop back over here. I know I'm long-winded. I know I take a little while to get and answer everything, but I like to get everything out there. Yeah, Bar Light Broker. Again, I really think this has... I don't think they're innocent. Again, this goes way, way back. They've been already accused of it 2 years ago. Again, watch the videos, watch the links, or read the links. Watch the videos that I've got posted too. There's enough evidence to show you, or anybody else out there, what the deal is in my book. I don't think eBay would have done this lightly. There could have been some legality issues if they just bumped them off, trying to stymie competition and all these other aspects of it. It could put the sense of eBay trying to be in a monopoly and all these other aspects. So I'm not one to ever defend eBay when it's not justified. So trust me, I would rather figure out it was eBay. That's literally what people were telling me. But I looked into this. I've been following this with the Wayne Gretzky card for quite some time. So anyway. Yeah, facts of life, of course, Annie. Hey, how you doing, Annie? Again, Annie does videos too, and she does some really educational videos too. She goes more in depth in some stuff than I do, in all honesty. She knows her stuff too. Hey, Aaron, how you doing, Aaron? I did hit you back. When I hear crash, I think buying opportunity. Let me put this out there in my opinion. For me, it would probably be a buying opportunity in some aspects if the prices go down. But for a lot of people, it may take you a couple years for the price to go back up. So if you can't afford to hold on to collectibles for a certain length of time, that may not be the smartest thing to do for a lot of folks out there. I would never recommend somebody just throwing the money out there in certain cases. But Aaron is right. If you're able to do it, there could be some big potential. That's why I say this is good and bad. The grading companies are good and bad. They're good for me if I send something in and it grades decently. I can usually double, triple my money out of it. Again, this has nothing to do with shill bidding. Prices for things, people always tell me when they sell for a couple thousand, they'll never sell for that. It's not worth it. I sell things in the $1,000+ range that aren't graded. And again, because they carry a value already. So I'm not like thinking every grading out there is fake and stuff. Things sell high when the condition is right, and not graded stuff even necessarily. If you've looked at, say, comic books I've looked at comic books since I was like 7. So I've had a price guide. I've looked at the sites. I follow things. You know, a lot of stuff sell high no matter what, even if they weren't graded. So to somebody, $10,000 for a comic book may seem crazy, but that's nothing. That is absolutely nothing in the comic book industry. That same comic book, though, say it's confirmed, everybody agrees it's 9.8, 9.9 or something, it's going to sell for $100,000 possibly, graded or not. So, you know, graded, it could go for even more than that. So there's a valid, useful reason for graders. It would eliminate the hassle where somebody says, you graded it wrong. If you've ever sold records and you're just trying, for those, I know there's a few record people out there, I've seen several in the chat now. If you're just getting the records and you don't know those grading structures on it, I always say this, undergrade. If you think you're not sure, you're iffy that it's a VG plus, I just graded a VG. I still do that. If I'm ever in doubt, I always grade under what I think it might be. I would rather under promise and over surprise. It helps with your feedback as well. I'm not greedy. I'm never going to grade something a hair higher just hoping I can get an extra 10, 20, even a couple $100. It's not worth my reputation. I live by the reputation. Again, that's why once you get bad reputation from a bunch of graders, that's why it's worrisome to me. It's not going to crush my business or anything else like that, no matter what. But it is worrisome because it can hurt folks that I know fairly well. I've talked to people for years that have been in my Patreon and in other places too. So there's a lot of involvement in what's going on. This isn't a light subject. This isn't me crying wolf or anything else like this. Last time something like this happened, stuff tumbled. Again, stuff tumbles. With gold and silver, it's tumbled back and forth and encased coins and this and that because of all the fakes. Again, in the description box, there's a bunch of links. Anybody really serious about this and you're into these categories, you need to watch some of those videos. Watch the gold one and the silver one, and which one is it? The title of that one, and I wrote it down here, you can click on the link, is Precious Metals Scam Video. Watch that one. There's the other one, PSA Incompetent or Complicity. Watch both of those. Watch both of those videos. You're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. I may not explain it eloquently to those who don't understand grading and all the services. Those videos will be very helpful. Again, I have no affiliation. I have no idea who those people are. Their videos are solid. They're legit. Every aspect about them, including the gentleman that the precious gold guy is talking to, it holds water in my book and always has. I know who the guy is. Let's just put it that way. Prior to the guy they're talking to, prior to that, I've seen other videos that had him in it. So anyway, he works for a service. I've seen in person at a coin show before fake ones, counterfeit ones. There was a gentleman from the government at one once before, and you can't own a counterfeit of anything if you didn't know that. But anyway, I've seen them. I know what to look for. I've personally handled counterfeit bills and caught them when I worked at Disney. I've probably seen 30 counterfeit bills in my day. My wife's probably seen 3 or 4 times that at Disney, because Disney is a huge place to pawn off counterfeit bills. You know, it's something you're going to see. And whenever you find a counterfeit bill at Disney, you have to go down to cash control office, which is a long ways away, no matter which park you're in. And anyway, you got to fill a report, you got to talk to somebody, you got to do a description. So it's never a fun thing to find, because it takes 30 or 40 minutes out of your day. And why did you take it? And in fact, most of those places, like at Disney, we were supposed to take the bill. You were supposed to take it. Disney has 24/7 Orange County police officer, detective there on staff and things like that. Plus, they have the Reedy Creek Improvement District, and they have their own security force too, which are mostly off-duty. I have friends in the security department there still, but anyway, like Teldac and stuff like that. But I know I'm rambling again. Well, thank you, Barlight Broker. Are you a collector? How are you doing? Yeah, sales are doing, I have no complaints at sales whatsoever. Sales have been actually doing fairly well. I think I covered the issues. Anybody else wants to know about the topic? We're going to end it in just a little bit here. I'm not going to stay on too long, because I do have a couple other things I've got a commitment to do still tonight for somebody else. So I'll probably give you like another 17 minutes till 20 past the hour. Again, I do appreciate everybody coming on. If you are enjoying it, please hit that thumbs up. I've got 134 people in house right now, or 234 people in house now. Hey Deb, how are you doing? Hopefully you're doing well. Also, sales though have been doing fairly fine. I'm literally doing fourth quarter sales right now. You know, I swear that's the case. So in fact, I may be even a little higher right now, above what I was doing in fourth quarter. We've been listing a heck of a lot of stuff here. Again, we've well surpassed the 1 million mark in inventory on the store I share with everybody. So, you know, and that's not a brag. That's just been a goal, and I'm very happy to have hit the goal. So I'm proud to say that I've worked my butt off, as well as everybody else here have, to hit goals like that. If you're not getting ready for fourth quarter already, you're gonna be in a little push to get it all done ahead of time. Fourth quarter comes up fast. August is my usual time frame to start slamming for fourth quarter. I've said it before. If you're new, everything you can possibly get up, again, only good items. Don't list junk. Don't list crap. Only good items. Everything you can get up before fourth quarter is what you want to do. It should hopefully be, if you're selling soft goods and non-collectible items, you do far better fourth quarter than any other time of the year. Again, it depends on what you sell, but collectibles sell pretty much all year round without too much of a fail. If you keep hammering your collectibles categories, again, you'll do very well. Let me holler out a couple things that I did in the last week or so that got an immediate boost on sales here, just because I have people that ask these type of questions. One thing I did was I raised the price of thousands of items that were below $9.99, cheaper items, all up to $9.99, all in a massive amount of time. And I've said this many times. This is something that, whether eBay wants to say it does something or not, it always does. And there's a valid reason why. A price, a photo, or the title force eBay, the search results, to recategorize it from what it was before. It'll put you in a new spot, from what I see every time, as long as you're changing one of those key aspects, especially if someone's sorting it by, the actual value-wise of the item, the list price itself. So of those, a lot of those items had been up for a while. They were cheaper items. Again, I don't list anything below $9.99 at all anymore. These are items that have been up for a couple of years. At one point, I lowered them because I wanted to blow them out. Lowering them does less good, and again, this is from me doing this for quite some time, does less good than raising them. That sounds crazy, and I know people may take a minute to get the gist of that. If I raise the prices, I have better sales results from raising them all up to $9.99 than I did lowering them from $7.99 down to, say, $4.50, $6.50, in that range. I did far better raising the price on a bunch of them. They sold very quickly. These are items that have been up for a long time. And I've talked about lowering prices at 1 month and then raising them another by $1 or so, because again, it does change where that item shows up in a search result. You're now above somebody. It now recategorizes that. It has action on that listing. It has activity that shows up that you did something to it. Improving a photo does something too. The next thing we've been working on is going through anything we photoed, and this goes back to what I think it was Laura. I don't want to say the wrong name, but I think it was Laura's thing about the scanners. Anything we photoed in the past that we can scan, we've been now scanning them. I've been ditching all of the photos that I have for scans, because the scans we do, the zoom-ins, they look much better. Good DPI, clear, no reflections, no slightly off dead center imagery or anything else like that. No skewed images or anything else like that. That works as well too. So those two features have kept sales rolling in, on top of, as I've said many times, constantly listing. If you list every single day of your life, you're going to get a ton more sales. Again, if you're listing junk, you don't know what you're listing, you're just listing stuff to get it up, that's only going to waste your time and cost you money. If you know what you're listing, you know your items, you know the value, you know they're decent items, you know they have a potential to sell, you're going to do so much better. You're not wasting your time doing it. Now, I personally don't mess with a sell-through rate on the individual items that I sell in my store. I never look at that. I don't care about watchers. I don't care about any of that. The only thing I do care about watchers is if they're, or views, I should say. With watchers, I only care about the ones that I can send an offer to. Those are the only ones that matter. 100 people could watch something. I don't still mess with the prices usually at all these days. If anything, I have raised prices across the board, and my sales have went up. Just a fact of the matter. Now, something else I got a whole video on is eBay coupons. With eBay's coupons now, they've added the option, far better than printing and mailing them out, is to email them. Basically, once you've sold the item, I would only recommend doing it for items that first have been delivered, and at least try for the ones that left you good feedback first. Send them a coupon through your sold items tab in, I don't remember what it technically titled. It's the second tab on my screen, but on that tab. And you've got the option. You can just click, 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 click. It's 2 clicks, and you send out a coupon. You have to set up the coupon, though, in the marketing tab first. I think there's a link that'll take you to that tab, but it's real easy. I got a video showing how to do it. There's a bunch of different options. If you play your cards right, you structure your pricing correctly, you can still do a 10% discount to get offers from watchers, which is what I always do. I used to do a 10%, 20, or I used to do a 20, 25, 30%. Sales have been rolling. I've been able to keep the momentum going with constant listings. So I've dropped it down. I only do a 10% now. And I only run a third of my store on 10% sale. When I run that one off, I run a different third of my store on a 10% sale. I can still send out a 10% coupon on that same item that I'm already offering a 10% sale on as well. And with the way I price, I 3X. I can price higher. I'm not too worried about it. My whole store is set up that way, so it doesn't, I'm not having one-offs where one's really high, one's really low. I have a structure. I price old school way. I price like you would see them in the antique stores, because that's where my knowledge starts from. Way back in the day, I used to do antique booths. I've done Reningers. I used to do Mount Dora in Florida. For those who are in Florida know what I'm talking about. It used to be Mondays, 6 a.m. on Webster's in Florida. It used to be a huge, great place to get stuff. That was the preferred one. I know people talk about the St. Cloud, but when that's a dump compared to what Reningers or what Webster's used to be, or even Reningers, the traveling shows. But anyway, let's just get to a couple more here. Yeah, Deb, hopefully I didn't pass you by. Good evening, Deb. Sean Weber, yeah, I did see that about Tops. I think a couple other folks called that out too. Yeah, that is a big change. But again, it may be tied to all what's going on. The FBI investigation started in 2019. We're talking about cards by Tops, so maybe Tops is already involved in this to some extent. I don't know. Again, this is objective. I'm not really sure. We don't know. It's just opinion. Maybe it's possible. Hang on just a second. Yeah, Amazon Seller 99. Things are a little crazy, but in all honesty, I looked into it. I'm moving on. It's not going to affect my business. Worst case scenario, I just don't list some cards for a while. I'll set them back in a box somewhere. No big deal. I don't mind holding on to a bunch of graded stuff for a few years. Chances are, if they are fake or there's something wrong with them, I can get my money back from the way it sounds already. They've had to reimburse people for some of those altered cards. Again, it puts into question, are they really experts if they can't tell an altered card or not? Constantly, over and over again. They couldn't even tell that they looked at the same card again. There's more to what's going on. Again, you have to follow and look at those videos to know what I'm talking about and everything. I've read every inch of what those are down there. And I don't usually spend time reading it, but again, my areas. These are my areas. These are many people's out there areas as well. I've seen quite a few people sell in many areas that I do as well. So anyway, let's pop on down. Freddie Russell, how are you doing? Yeah, I wind it back. I've got a whole segment in the beginning here. It's about a 15-minute clip that I play that I recorded earlier today. Hopefully that will be helpful too. It's Murgi Oloso. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Welcome. Hey, Steve, how you doing, Mr. Elmore? Well, thank you very kindly. Things are going okay. My biggest issues are my eyes. I can never escape my vision problems. It's a constant nightmare some days. I'm up real early these days because I get headaches all the time. But Michelle Cox-Trout, how are you doing, Michelle? Hopefully you're doing well. Sandra L., how are you doing? Yeah, it was a big deal, and it's just gotten worse, in my opinion, because of all the people throwing a bunch of cash and the values going up. And again, this is investors doing this. If you watch my videos for the last year and a half, I've been talking about investors increasing the prices on these items. Their money is going into tangible goods like comic books and things like that. They see what's going on in Hollywood. They see the top money makers. They see that when a movie comes out for a superhero, the comic books go up at the very same time. We've invested heavily in like Pink Panther and stuff because Julie Andrews is working on a movie with Blake Edwards' wife, I do believe, or something, some connection like that. So Pink Panther is going to be back in the hot spot. So we've invested heavily in certain items. So nothing wrong with investing, but I'm not skewing the market. I'm not misrepresenting or altering or anything else like that. I bought thousands of animation cells for the Pink Panther not too long ago. We're still working on it. It's got a lot of stuff to go through, but you will see more than just the little clips I've posted out prior. I think I've showed a few extra ones in Patreon that I haven't posted anywhere else too. For those in Patreon, I will probably have a live show on Sunday. You should have another video Saturday. I've got a 20-minute one I've already shot. I just need to do the final edits and put the credits on it and then process and upload it. And then I'll do an hour or so live show just for Patreon on Sunday. And the last half will be a store review again. We've got somebody who asked. So posts are available for anybody to see who's a Patreon member and the top level on Patreon. Yeah, no problem on it. It was shocking news with Topps for most people, in all honesty. But with all the other stuff tied with what's going on with grading and stuff, I'm not surprised, in all honesty. Yeah, card market's in a bubble, Sean Weber. You are definitely right. Hey, Michelle, I'm glad I didn't sell that stuff right now. Yeah, I think I've just lost my spot. Did I? Nope. Yeah, Robert N. Yeah, I don't scan high dollar items. You can scan Victorian trade cards. I've scanned, $500-$600 cards quite often without any issues whatsoever. That goes back down to knowing I know my scanner by heart. I know what I can put in there any given day. I know how to get it to go when it doesn't work. I clean it. I take care of it. I clean the rollers. I know my items. I take care of them. If you're using the scanner, you never check. You never clear out the remnants. You don't dust it off. I blow everything out. I dust it off outside with the air compressor. But you've got to take care of your equipment too. If you've never messed with these scanners, don't put high dollar items in there. Definitely so, or fragile items. A carrier sheet is what you would want if it's fragile. If it's something that could be creased or bent, you should be extra careful. But again, I've used these scanners for years. I've never personally damaged a single item using the scanners. Again, I use low value cards to start, just junk ones to see. I've adjusted all the settings. I check my rollers. I clean everything. You can clean it with indentured alcohol and things like that, and isopropyl as well works too. So, anyway, let me pop on down. We're gonna just a couple more, and we're gonna end it off here. Well, sorry to hear that, Joe. Joe the Breadman Reseller Channel. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm fully vaccinated. I would recommend everybody to do that. And it's not political in any way, shape, or form because I'm not a member of any party at all. So just FYI, I would just recommend it because I've seen the results. We've lost 2 people that we personally know died from COVID. Take it how you want, but the science is there as far as I am concerned, and I'm not one to trust until I check into the evidence. But again, I'm not trying to turn this into any political whatsoever. I'm just thinking about the safety of my family with a child with a heart condition, as well as the safety of others who are around us. And that's all I'm worried about. I don't care about anything else. Have your opinions, that's fine. But I'm not trying to sway. It's my freedom to want to wear one if I want to. It's aggravating when somebody tells me, "What are you wearing one for?" Because I care about myself and others. So anyway. I'm not saying people who don't want to wear them don't care about people, but in some aspects, it's a risk. That's all I'm going to say. Sean, you were not able to scan currency on old scanners. Most of them will still allow you to scan currency. I'll tell you right now, at least the ones that I've used. It just won't. It won't be a complete because of the paper, as well as if it's got the little strip in there and things like that too. I've never scanned, a U.S. bill, but I have scanned a Canadian one. I'll tell you right off the bat. Not to copy, just I wanted to see what happened to the holographic image on there. Somebody else told me that exact same thing, and I tried it. I would never ever tell you to counterfeit or copy anything else like that. Just FYI. I deleted it immediately afterwards, of course, too. Again, hopefully Joe is doing better, so everybody wish Joe some luck with his family. Again, it's not fun. I've seen it in first person. Couldn't go to a funeral because they weren't, you couldn't go. So anyway, hang on, we're going to end it, as I said, in just a minute. I'm trying to keep to my word on my time. Hey, Stardust Memories, how are you doing? Yeah, thank you, Daryl. Hopefully you're doing well too, Daryl. Yeah, PWCC's Shill bidding is widely known in the sports. Yeah, it's been going on for a few years. As I said, they were investigated, and it goes back to like 2014, 2015 is when the first time I started to hear those rumors. I've been to sports card shows. I think I even posted 1 or 2 photos from me at a show with some football players at one of the local shows around here a year or 2 ago on Instagram. I know I'm terrible. I haven't done Instagram in a long time, but I'm a reseller. I'm not a major promoter of my stuff. I wished I was, because then I'd probably have more views. But anyway, I'm not like that, I guess. We're gonna hit one more because we're right at my mark here. Hey, Sean X. If I didn't call you out, a lawyer named Kenneth Walton did this on eBay in the 90s with art and got raided by the FBI for it. He wrote a book about it. Yeah, I bet you he did pretty well in the book. eBay probably wanted to smear the name because people were moving. Yeah, I don't think it's them trying to smear the name, in all honesty, because, again, there's a case. There's FBI is investigating it now. FBI has some issues with eBay now, so I think there was just some cross-concerted effort for eBay to try and cover their butt. Because, again, if eBay's facilitating, scammed cards and not taking action when somebody points it out, especially if it's a well-known grader authenticator, that shows a red flag in my book. So I would be happy to get all the people doing wrong and misidentifying, misgrading, and things like that. I hate when I see like somebody saying this is Civil War, War of 1812, and it's like a 1940s butt, because they're scamming somebody when they do it. If you don't know what it is or you can't confirm it, you don't list it. That's what I would never list something if I wasn't sure what it was. But anyway, we're going to let it go out there. I do apologize if I haven't gotten to everybody here. Again, I would seriously look at some of those links down there. Again, I don't get anything for you looking at those links, but I think it's valid, important, key information. I've tried to condense it into just those so you're not having to worry about where you got to look for everything. Everything down there pretty much covers this from start to finish. And what I showed in the video in the beginning, the 15-minute segment, is covered with these links here. And again, as I said, the precious metals scam video is worth watching, as is the PSA incompetent video also. It shows you comparisons. It shows you why this is happening, what's going on, and it talks about all the con artists out there. So anyway, I'm going to let everybody go. I do appreciate everybody coming on today. I do hopefully everybody's having some good sales. I don't know if I have a video up tomorrow on YouTube, but as I said, Saturday there will be a video on Patreon and YouTube, and then live show for Patreons at the $9.99 level on Sunday at some point. It'll probably be like 4 or 5. But anyway, I'll let you go, and I hope you all have a good evening.